everybody, good morning. I woke up about 20 minutes ago. I've just fed the animals. My coffee is piping hot. I just made a hot water bottle as well. I was in agony last night. I was in so much pain. I thought the oregano oil was helping with my stomach, from being tortured, but obviously it's alleviating it. I've only been taking it for a week though, so usually when you take anything herb related or vitamin related, you got to give it about 3 months, and it's made a remarkable difference. But it's obviously it's it's not removed the cause. Maybe it's only removing some of the symptoms, I guess, or definitely the inflammation. It's definitely removed the inflammation, which is exactly what I was buying it for. But it doesn't help with the pain. You know, I have only been having to deal with my scar pain, but last night it was my scar pain and my stomach. I was in so much pain last night. I basically just ate half my dinner, curled up in a ball, and fell asleep listening to YouTube videos. And I had two dreams. They're gonna. They felt like they were back to back, but it wouldn't be possible for them to be back to back because when I got up to go to the wharipaku last night, after I had my first dream, it was, I think it was like just before midnight or just after midnight, and then I had this second dream. But they're both connected, and I wanted to explain them because obviously when I tell you about my dreams, I'm trying to teach you how to interpret dreams because the internet and dream interpretation sites are wrong. They're mostly wrong. Not all, but the majority of them are mostly wrong. And because dreams are more about your conscious mind doing a form of self psychoanalysis in order to tell you what you need to work on, what's going on with you at the moment, um, a progress report, and then the rest of your dreams are like prophecy and visitation from your loved ones, and that are crossed over and that sort of thing. So I'm trying to teach you how to understand your dreams, because then it teaches you how to understand what's going on with you, and like think of it as your soul telling your mind how you're doing at that moment. So if I teach you how to understand your dreams and tell you what it all means, then if you ever have those dreams, you'll know what they mean, and then you'll know how to analyse them. Now remember, if I go quiet, it's just because I'm sipping my coffee. But yeah, I was in so much pain last night. I just curled up in a ball with my hot water bottle, and I just groaned a little and just kind of rocked myself to sleep. And my my ribs and stomach muscles, like my muscles around my ribs and that, are in so much pain. I feel like I've been crushed. I don't know what caused it. I haven't lifted anything heavy. Usually when I have to carry shopping back from the store and that, I can trigger it. But I've literally just been in my room because my bedroom is like the only room I live in my bedroom, because my living room is so big. It's cold, and we're in the middle of winter here, and I have no TV or anything like that, so I just look like a dork sitting in a room where there's nothing. I have no internet, I have no TV. I can only use my laptop when I use the hotspot on my phone. And yeah, um, I basically live in my room because it's warm and it's cozy. and it's comfortable because I have to lay down a lot. I can't sit for too long. I can't lay down for too long, so I need to be able to recline, and reclining helps take the pressure off my stomach. And yeah, so I was in a lot of pain last night, and because I'm allergic to pain relief, there's nothing I can take. I have no access to anything that's not legal here, and I have to be careful, obviously. So, yeah. So, I had these two dreams, and they both are a continuation of each other, but. Oh, my coffee's so nice and hot. Um, Next to the dream that I had about Lucifer, and I mean actual Lucifer, not Trump, this was years ago, chasing this woman down a dark tunnel to do things to her. She was running for her life, and he was chasing her, but he had no. He was only from the torso up with these massive arms and muscular chest, and he was basically just entrails instead of like a waist and legs and stuff. And then when he caught her, he did bad things to her. That's the most disturbing dream I've ever had until today. Um, the first dream I had, I'm still feeling a little bit nauseated. It's gonna be a little while before I'm able to have breakfast because even when I had the first dream and went to the wharepaku, I felt sick, and now this one is just like blah. I feel nauseated. I'm actually sitting here thinking all those years ago when I had that dream about Lucifer chasing the young girl down the dark tunnel, and I was peeking from around the corner, and you could see like where he was moving, he was leaving like trails of blood in that because he had nothing from the waist down other than his innards. But his upper body was exceptionally muscular, and he was red, just like you'd imagine Satan. This was obviously at a time when I didn't understand and believe in the biblical side of all of it, but and he had like really muscular arms. He chased this poor girl down, and when he grabbed her, he did things to her, and then he devoured her. And now, of course, I'm saying it wasn't about Lucifer Trump, but I'm thinking, well, it was about Lucifer, because obviously what I investigated about him years later, this was even, I think, before. Just trying to think. It might have been when he was president the first time, but I always thought the dream was to do with my ex-husband Chris, because he ended up being you know, shrek with the predator. But now I'm thinking it was probably to do with what I was going to be investigating with Donald Trump. And, Epstein and all of that stuff. Anyway, so this first dream I had, I need to be careful how I explain it. I dreamt I was with my two boys in this really lovely park, and I saw my ex's mother. And I was saying to her, I introduced her to the boys. They were quite young, and I was saying to her I'd like for them to be able to have a relationship. And then I went to go and put something in the bin, and when I turned around, her and the boys had gone, and I was looking around the park and I couldn't find them. And I was starting to panic. And I was searching until dark and I couldn't find them. I was starting to panic, and I rang the police and, asking the police for help. And when I started calling out their names, and I could hear them calling their names back, and I was thinking, what the hell's going on? And then I looked and I saw my ex-mother-in-law coming around the corner with my two boys, and there was like, it was a misunderstanding. She thought I was saying, you can take the boys now. But what I was saying was like, let's work on this building this so that we can get to a point where you can have them. But she thought I was saying take them now. So I thought they'd been kidnapped, but it had just been like this big misunderstanding, right? So then, next thing I know, I'm sitting in a bed outside in this really beautiful garden with three other people also in beds, and I'm talking to this girl who's standing beside me, and she's talking about making some tea and toast. And so I leaned over to the lady in the bed beside me and I said to her, "Do you want some tea and toast?" And she was kind of mumbling and sort of incoherent, but she was like, she said, "Yeah." So I said, "Well, come on then, I'll go and make us some tea and toast." And I went with the young girl out of the garden and into this house where the lady had lived. But where she had lived was absolutely filthy. There was boxes and rubbish piled up. It was dark, it was dingy. She'd obviously not lived there for a while because it was all dusty and manky and that. And when I opened the door, there was like millions and millions and millions, well, not millions, okay, so like hundreds of teeny tiny spiders, and they just scattered everywhere. As soon as I opened the door, they just scattered. And I went in to this unkept, derelict, dark house that hadn't been lived in for probably decades. Like, that's how unkept and dusty and dirty it was. It looked like it hadn't been lived in for decades. And this man came in, and I don't know why, but I knew he was a boxer, and he was completely off his rocker. And he was Scottish, and he was wearing a kilt, and he was with this other guy who was bigger, and they were both wearing kilts, and the other guy lay down on the ground, and his compass was facing north, shall we say, if you know what I mean. Think between the lines. And this guy in the kilt lifted up his kilt, and he was using his to touch his slightly. And he saw me standing there, and he came over and he just threw me to the ground and started trying to kiss me and everything. And when I looked at him, I was aware that I had a young girl and a little boy with me. I don't know what happened to the young lady. I think she was standing in the corner absolutely terrified. But I thought to myself, if I just lay there, it'll protect the others. And when he got on top, he looked me straight in the eye, and he had green eyes like they were just like my ex's. It wasn't his face. I didn't know the face of this person, but he was the kind of, Spud from Train Spotting. The Robert Carlyle character from Train Spotting, mixed with Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Wild Bill from Silence of the Lambs. If you created a character, a person that was all three of those mental states of mind and put that into one person, he was like that. He was all over the place. He I don't know if he was like on drugs or if he was like had a head injury, or whether he was like he wasn't. This is the sort of person that needed to be put in a place for the criminally insane. But I just lay there and I thought, of at least while he's focused on me, he's leaving the kids in that alone. He's not hurting anybody else. And when he looked into my eyes, when he lay down on top of me, it was my ex's eyes. Um, so then I noticed he put a prophylactic on, which my ex never does, and that's always been a worry of mine with the amount of women he sleeps with. He doesn't use protection. So he is going to end up with an STD. I'm absolutely sure of it. Maybe it'll be syphilis, and that's why he was insane in this dream, because syphilis drives you nuts. Um, your nuts drives you to syphilis. Anyway, I can't laugh because it hurts. He, when he put it on and then got back on me, I noticed that his face was covered in, I'm going to just like vomit. The first thing I noticed was he had like this big pussy pimple thing on his ear that was probably the size of, say, like 4 baked beans. And it had burst and it was green and pustular and it was like dripping into his ear. And I was looking at the guy that had been laying down on the ground and I was trying to say to him, like, get him off me. I'm going to be sick. I was sort of looking at him as if to say, get him off me. This is disgusting. And it was dripping into his ear and it was dripping onto his shoulder. And then I noticed he had like, they were the size of like 5p, 10p blackheads and pimples. And they were all like popping and getting ready to like fall out of his skin. And I couldn't take it anymore. So I pushed him off me and I grabbed the little girl's hand and he was going ballistic. He went absolutely ballistic. And I grabbed the little girl's hand and I took off out the door and up the street, and her and I ran so fast that he didn't even have time to figure out where we were going, and we ran all the way up this dark, dark, dark road. I was following the moonlight to this dark, 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 up this dark road. You couldn't see anything. I know we went past the park where I lost the boys, and then we kind of darted down this little side pathway, but into the countryside by a train track. And all I could hear him saying was, "How do you cook a leg? How do you cook a leg in a pot?" And then I remembered I'd left the little boy there, and I'm thinking, "Oh my God, I've left the little boy there," thinking he's eating he's gonna eat the little boy. That's what I was thinking. I had no proof of that, but that's what I was thinking. I've left the little boy there. The little boy was only about 3. The girl was about maybe 6. And then I woke up and went to the bathroom. I can still see the size of those blackheads in there on his face were huge. His eyes used to change from like a green to a brown. They were a mix between a green and a brown. Yeah. So then the second dream I had, I was in this house, not a house I've known before, and I was in this bedroom where my youngest was. And I had just had a shower and I had gotten dressed and I was looking in the mirror and I had blackheads on my skin and I was saying, he gave them to me. I'm saying, look what he bloody did. He gave them to me. Look what he's done to my skin. And I was saying, oh, Gabriel, he gave them to me. But I was able to kind of like, I don't know how I did it, but I used my finger like a comb and scraped it up my face and they were just coming off. just like popping off, and I was wiping it onto a tissue and throwing the tissue in the bin as my ex walked past the hallway. And then my skin was clear other than this one pimple that I had, and it just looked like just a normal pimple. And I've only ever gotten pimples when it was my time of the month. And I went to pop this pimple, to lance this pimple, and so much pus came out of it, it hit the mirror and forced me backwards, and I almost landed on the bed next to my son, who was in his bed playing a Game Boy. I remember I found a really, really, I can't remember what part of the dream I found it in, but I'd found, it might have been the start of this one actually, but I'd found like a Game Boy, and it worked perfectly, and I knew it was worth a lot of money. And he was playing this Game Boy. I just can't remember where I found it, but I knew if other people knew I had this Game Boy, people would try and steal it from me, try and rip me off, and I needed to keep this Game Boy safe so that when I was ready to sell it, I could take it to auction, like sell it to the highest bidder, because I knew it was worth a lot of money. And my boy was playing it in bed, and this pus came out with such a force, like when you take the thing off a fire hydrant. The force of it pushed me back, and I almost fell on the bed. And I was so grossed out, I just wanted to vomit because I couldn't believe that all this stuff was coming out of me. And then this man walked in, and he got down on one knee, and he proposed to me. And I said, well, I looked at Gabriel. Well, he proposed to me, and he gave me this ring, and he said she made it. I asked her to make it for me. And it was the girl from the first dream, the one who was standing in the garden. And I was like, oh my God, like I was so touched that she'd helped design this ring, and it looked like my husband, the ring that I had to buy myself, it looked like a cross between that ring and one that my mum had that had garnets in it, and the stone in it was like amber. It was like a gem the colour of amber. And in the thumbnail, when I'm finished recording, I'll put a photo up. I had it saved in eBay. I had it in there just after I lost Amber, because it's like the amber gem, and it's they're synthetic, obviously not real, diamonds, like cubic zirconias, because her birthstone is diamond. And so, like I I'm not married or anything anymore, and I thought I'd just wear this ring, and then I'd always be with Amber. It was, like part of my healing process, and when I've got the spare money, I'll get this ring. It's like 17 quid or something. But I thought then, Amber and I are together, and the main stone was that, and then there was like these little side, like, I don't know if they were ruby, but probably garnet, because they were like dark red, like rose red. And I put it on my finger, and I was so touched that this ring had been made just for me. And when I went to put it on my finger, I had all these other rings on my finger, and I was worried that I couldn't fit it on my finger. First it was too big, and then when I took the other rings off, it fit, but then I couldn't fit the other rings on my finger, and then you couldn't see the ring that I'd just got in, and like I was flustered, because I was like, I don't know what to do. And I said to Gabriel, what should I do? And he said, just wear the two rings that are going to matter. And I knew he meant my engagement ring, and then eventually my wedding ring. So I took the other rings off, and I just put them down and put the engagement ring on, and then it's almost like I could see the wedding ring starting to develop on my finger, if that makes sense. I could like visually see the where the wedding ring was going to sit on my finger, next to my engagement ring. The engagement ring, by design, absolutely makes no design sense whatsoever, but that's the actual design of the ring's got nothing to do with it. And it's all to do with the stones that were in the ring. So then I woke up. So now let's interpret it. So me being in the park with the boys when they were little, and then coming across their grandmother, is because when this is over, I would like my boys to have a relationship with their grandmother. I've told them this before. I'd like them to be able to, so that we can go and visit and exchange Christmas presents and that sort of thing. And then when I lost them and I couldn't find them, obviously it's to do with the fact that I'm not with them. My ex did stuff to take them away from me, and I couldn't find them. And that panic of trying to find them, thinking they'd been kidnapped, is because like thinking I'm never going to see them again. Like that worry as a mum, have I lost my kids forever, sort of thing. But then with her turning up and misunderstanding um, what I'd been saying, basically meaning that what I'm being told is that any misunderstandings that my children and I had with each other over my ex-husband and everything that happened during the course of our marriage is going to be cleared up, which is why I called the police, because when you dream about the police or calling the police or calling for the police on the phone, it means obviously the police, just like the army, and that it's to do with, they represent security and protection, just like fathers do in dreams. Dads, whether it's your baby daddy or your actual father, they represent protection and security. So I was calling out for help to say, help me get my boys back. So it's me calling to the law, getting the law involved. The law will be getting involved in me clearing up the situation with my boys. So I was being told, don't worry, my call for help has been heard, and my boys will be coming back to me because the misunderstandings will be cleared up. There was a misunderstanding and it will be cleared up, because I knew that they didn't understand what they were being told from his side of things. I knew he was lying to them. Um, so I knew he'd gotten in their heads, which was why the forest we were in, was quite thick, and I was calling their name and they were calling their names back. Um, echoes of echoes of their father, not seeing the wood for the trees, so to speak. So then the bit where I'm in the lovely garden, there were roses, it was sunshine, it was really lovely, but there were four beds. I knew it was to do with me being locked up, because the people in the beds were incoherent and, all of that. And we used to be given tea and toast at night for supper. Um, it was one of the only times I actually got fed, and there was this one nurse in particular who always used to bring me tea and toast to my room, because she knew as I was getting sicker, it was getting harder for me to walk around. I would have to lean against the walls to hold myself up, because I was in so much pain and I was so weak from being tortured, and my body was starting to give up, my heart was starting to give up, and then I was being tortured on top of it. So the hospital represents all of that. But with the fact that it was outside, it was almost like there was this garden bit when I was finally allowed out. I'd sit in the garden and I'd use the stuff from the garden to make the pouches and posies and all of that for the girls to help them sleep. And then they'd come in the next day and give me hugs, and they'd talk about how, they loved the smell of the room when they'd walk into the room, and they were able to go off sleeping medication and all of that. So that's talking about that. When I went to the woman's house and it was dirty and filthy, and I opened the door and all the little spiders ran away, it's to do with whenever you dream about buildings like houses, office blocks, malls, shops, whatever, it's to do with how you see yourself at the time of the dream. But this wasn't my house. This was someone else's house, and it was filthy. It like there was rubbish piled up, and the spiders, and there was like spider webs everywhere, and dust, and it was just it's like it hadn't been lived in for years. So it's to do with the state of mind of the people, the state of mind and the condition of the lives of the people who have been watching me. Which is why when I open the door, all the little spiders in dreams always represent CCTV, covert surveillance, undercover operations, that sort of thing. So by me opening the door, I exposed everything, and they all ran to save themselves because they knew they'd been caught. And all the rubbish that was piled up outside the door was their trash. Their trash. All the trash that had put me through what they'd put me through were now being exposed. And so they were trying to distance themselves from me entering the house. When I went into the house and that man came in the kilt, and then the other man laying down with the compass facing north, and them slightly rubbing, is because my ex is hiding things about his sexuality. And to cover it up, and this is very, very common for people who pretend to be like transphobic or like anti-LGBT, they're often covering up latent homosexual tendencies. And I know what my ex has been doing, because I used to have to clean his clothing. I used to have to clean his underwear. And then what they do is, in order to hide it, they over-masculate themselves. And then they become predatory and forceful around women. And my ex was sexually assaulting me when I was asleep, which is why I was laying down on the floor thinking if I just let him do it, it's protecting the other ones in the room. And then, of course, all the pus and everything, the blackheads in dreams, everything that you have, it's like all the dirt that's stuck to you. You get blackheads because dirt and sweat and everything gets trapped in your pores, and then it builds up and becomes like it oxidizes and turns black. And yeah, so you get blackheads when things have stuck to you, but you get pimples when you have taken things in, because you get pimples for either hormones or the food you're eating. So you are the cause of the pimples and the dreams, but the blackheads are things that you've been around, the toxicity that you've absorbed, basically. And he had massive ones, and I want to be sick because they were dripping all over his face. And I didn't want them touching me. I wanted to get him off me. I just wanted him to hurry up and get him off me. The other thing I remember was when he finished, he took the prophylactic off, and instead of it being the colour that you'd expect, it was just dripping with blood. So I'm wondering whether he's got himself an STD. Yeah. Because I know for a fact he doesn't use protection, because a lot of his victims who were willing to testify on my behalf when I took them all to court said he doesn't use protection. And I said to the boys, please don't ever be like your father. When you're at that age where you're going to be doing that sort of thing, use protection. don't ever not use protection, even if they say, oh, it's all right, I'm on the pill, or it's all right, you don't need it. Just say, no, no, it's okay. Because, like, in this day and age, and especially with people who are vaccinated and stuff, you can pass that stuff on to the unvaccinated through Shreks now. There's they've discovered that you can get um, cervical cancer if you're unvaccinated having Shrek with a vaccinated. They pass it on through the cervix. It's like a brand new STD, and and just even by touching them now. So yeah, I'm wondering whether he's got an STD or something. So yeah, I know for a fact that he doesn't use protection because his witnesses are willing to testify that he never used protection with them. So then when I grabbed the little girl and I ran, and I heard him saying, how do you cook a leg in a pot? And I knew I'd left the little boy there. Even when I woke up, I knew that it was talking about the child that he said I had to remove from my body. Because he said if I didn't, he'd kill himself and I'd be homeless. It was at a time where my visa stipulations were I didn't have any access to government assistance. I hadn't been in the country long enough. So he was going to kill himself. I would have been by myself, homeless on the street. There would have been nothing I could do. I was backed into a corner, and it's one of the biggest regrets I ever made in my life. I've had to live with that guilt ever since. Um, but I knew the reason why I didn't leave afterwards is because I knew that he was important to my future. Like, I just intuitively knew he was important somehow. And then, of course, I had my two babies, so it's like I knew he was going to give me children. Like, I intuitively knew he was going to be the father of my other children, and that, like, just write it out sort of thing. Even though I've lived with that guilt my entire, like, ever since, my entire life ever since. Grabbing the little girl and running, I had to leave. I had to run for my life in order to be able to ensure that I could have my little girl. Chasing the moon, because I always say her dad's the moon king. Her future father is the moon king. So yeah, I was running into the darkness to save myself so that I could ensure I had this little girl who's going to be she's the one I have to teach everything to. I can't teach a lot of this stuff to the boys. It has to be a girl. So in order to save myself, I had to escape the madness and the toxicity and the evil in order to be able to ensure a future with the little girl. So then in the second dream, I'm in the bedroom with, I found the Game Boy. It means I'm holding something valuable in my hands that I know that if I entrust it to the wrong people, they're going to rip me off. I know I'm holding on to something valuable. The Game Boy, I'm thinking, is more than likely going to be my gaming chair, my design, my idea for the gaming chair, because my ex works in the games industry, and he taught me a lot. And so it's like I have to keep it to myself and hold it safe. My son Gabriel is the only one I started kind of trying to talk the idea about, but he didn't understand it. He didn't get it. It's one of those things where I'd need to sit down with a pencil and piece of paper. Otherwise, you wouldn't understand it. But he was there. And so it was like I was being told, just keep it quiet. Keep it safe, hold it close and keep it quiet. Because I know that what I'm sitting on is going to be worth a lot of money. A lot of money. And a lot of social media places, movie production companies, games companies, NASA, SpaceX, all of that, they're not going to be happy. when I'm able to actually build this prototype. So when I looked into the mirror and I saw all the blackheads on my skin, it was me. Everything that I had absorbed, everything that I'd taken in, so well, everything that had stuck to me because of my ex-husband, which is why he walked past the hallway. The slander, the defamation, the insults, stealing from me, the sexual abuse, the physical, the mental abuse, the financial abuse, the public humiliation because he used to scream at me and the kids in public in full view of everyone, and it was really embarrassing. He'd have these complete meltdowns and he wouldn't even try and contain it in public, and people would stop and stare at us, and it was absolutely humiliating. He was embarrassing in public. His meltdowns were embarrassing to the point where people would stop and look at us. I had so many people coming up to me and saying, in real life, are you okay? Like, do you need help? Do you need us to help you get away from him? Even in Scotland, are you okay? The doctors, the nurses and that at the doctor's surgery, do you need help? Like, do you need us to help you and the kids get away from him? And I'd be like, no, it's okay. I didn't even realise, like I didn't know back then, which is the blackheads. I was carrying all of that around, not knowing how toxic it was. And then when I did know how toxic it was, I was able to just easily remove it because I knew that this wasn't any darkness or toxicity that was my responsibility to bear. This was all on him and those spiders. So I was getting it off and my skin was all nice and clear. Whereas his skin in the first dream, it was like pissing and infected, and ugh, I just, even now, I feel sick even talking about it. But looking in the mirror, when you have a dream where you're looking in the mirror, it's talking about self-reflection. Taking a long hard look at yourself. I just had a shower in the dream, so I was purified, I was clean, but it was my face. And when you look in the mirror in dreams, it's to do with self-reflection, where you're being told to look at yourself and see the truth. And so when I wiped the blackheads away and I just had that one pimple and I popped it and it just went sploosh so much that it forced me back. It's to do with me letting go. So what the dream was saying is, I dealt with all that toxicity, I dealt with all that evil, I dealt with everything that was shown at me by my ex, his lovers, and everybody who's watching. Justice is being served, and now I can let it all go. I've released it. I've used it to cleanse myself. I've just realised as well, how do you cook a leg in a pot? It's to do with, you know what they do with the the babies afterwards. And some can't. Well, like they put it in McDonald's and in Coca-Cola, and some people use them to make soup. I'm not joking, because that's been my whole life, is doing my investigations as an occult physicist, having to deal with human trafficking and the kids in the past, when all the stuff that got me put on the radar of Hillary Clinton and the CIA and Donald Trump and Elon Musk, and that's all the people responsible for what I was put through. Their circle, when they take the babies, from Planned Parenthood and all of that, when they take them, in some countries they do put them in food, and in a particular country in Asia they make soup out of it. So that's what he would have been talking about my ex-husband's involvement in the dark twisted depravity, a depraved world of the most sinful, psychotic, evil people on the planet. And that's been my life because I'm here to expose them all, to get them off the street so that women and children are safe again, so that young men are safe again, so that homeless people and veterans are safe again. Because they, like Hard Target with Van Damme, they really do that. And with children as well. This has been my whole life. This is why I um, this is why I allowed myself to go through it all. When my teacher told me, when she prepared me in the 90s for what was coming, and she said to me, basically, whatever's thrown at you, just keep walking because you're going to end up saving a lot of people as a result. She said, when the world knows your name, they're going to know that you saved them from darkness and evil. And then the people who did this to you will become the most hated people in the world. And then what was done to you will be done to them 10 times worse. So then, because I released all the toxicity in the dream, because I got it all out, got it all out of me and purified and cleansed, which is, when you have a dream about having a bath or a shower, it's like you've been purified, you've been cleansed, and all your sins and guilt and illnesses and fears and all that is all being washed away. And then that one pimple is me just letting it all out. These videos, my YouTube channel, I'm showing people how to fix themselves, showing people how to interpret their dreams so they understand the state of their own mind, showing people how to deal with ascensions and the traumas that you go through when you're going through your trial by fire and when you have to face your Judas tests and all of that. Because all the people that come into your life, they're part of the test. How they treat you and how you react, it's all part of your trial by fire. And you will be exposed to a lot of Judases in your during the course of your ascension, and a lot of your Judases are going to be people that you loved and trusted with all of your heart. But they've been exposed for who they really are. And remember, in the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus was so devastated because he knew that Judas and Peter and that were going to betray him. He was so upset at the betrayal, he went into the Garden of Gethsemane and cried blood. So in a lot of statues and that where you see Jesus and he's got the tears of blood, it's because he was heartbroken and devastated that his best friend was the whole reason why he was being executed. His best friend and his trusted companions, his disciples, and that they were going to betray him and he was going to die because of it. So it's kind of the same thing. When you go through an ascension, you're gonna come across a lot of Judases, a lot of Peters. So I'm the person that everybody wants to know, but nobody wants to admit to knowing. They want to be a part of everything that I put out, but they don't want people to know me because I'm considered weird and strange. And if you're not on the same frequency as me, you're not going to understand her. And people pretend to be on the same frequency as me, but the fact that they don't want people to know that they follow me or listen to me or know me or anything like that goes to prove that they know I'm something, but they don't understand what it is that I am enough that they're willing to say to the world, that's my friend, that's my girlfriend, that's my, look, I'm so proud, I know this person. So these are the people that you have to do away with. They're the Judases, fake friends, fake supporters, the fakeness, the false. Which is why I was able to just brush it off my skin, because it was like none of it had embedded itself. None of it stuck. It doesn't matter what they did to me or what they said or what they tried to do. None of it stuck. I was able to just brush it off. And having my shower it had just opened all the pores up, and I was able to just brush it all off, and my skin was perfectly clear other than this one pimple. And when I went to lance it, and it just came out like a fire hydrant, it was just me releasing it, everything that I had taken in, like having to admit the things that I'd gotten wrong, having to admit toxic traits in myself, changing my diet, having to heal my body, because your skin, the condition of your skin is all based on your environment and your digestive system. So, by me lancing the pimple and everything just coming out, meaning like I've released it all. And then the ring on my finger is to do with the same thing as the little girl. I had to do it in order to be able to have my little girl. My in the movie, in my little Disney princess movie, she's called Amber Rose, Princess Amber Rose. But in real life, when I have my little girl, I'm going to call her Rose Marie, after obviously my niece Amber, because she was my little girl. She was like my best friend. She was my little sister, but I always said she should have been my daughter. She should have been mine. And when she was dying, I said to her, when you get up there, have a rest, and then find me a baby daddy, a loyal, faithful, dedicated, honourable, noble baby daddy, someone who's not going to cheat on me, someone who's not going to have eyes for other women, someone who's not going to flirt with other women, especially in front of me, someone who's going to like honour the sacred vows of marriage, because marriage is sacred to me. And having all those rings on my finger was, and then my son saying, just wear the rings that matter, meaning don't worry about the husbands of the past, because I've had three of them. Don't worry about the husbands of the past, just focus on the husband that you're going to have in the future. So just give your time and energy to the new man that's coming. So obviously I'm about to meet my baby daddy, and he's going to be who gives me his sister, because all he's ever wanted is his little sister. He said he was born to protect his little sister. And I don't care if I have to have IVF treatment, I'm going to have this baby. Although I was told that we'd have her naturally, there's no reason why I can't. I haven't gone through menopause or anything, so um, it's the one thing that Gabriel was worried about, which is why he was in the dream, because the longer we've had to go without getting justice in that, he even said to me, we're running out of time for you to have this baby. And I said to him, don't worry, I know I'm having her. So she's in my dreams. So I'm being told she's getting ready. She's getting ready to present herself. But I had to get away from all the toxic people and toxic exes in my life in order to be able to have her, because she's the rose. She's something special. She's going to be the ninth element, which is I'm the eighth element, which is birth. She's the ninth element, which is reincarnation, amber, which is why the gem was the colour of amber. But the little stones that were on the side were garnets that were like the colour of roses. So basically, those two dreams mean that I went through hell, um, exposing coalitions of Epsteiners, exposing child predators, exposing sexual predators. I had to go through all of that in order to become, as I was ascending, in order to purify myself and learn how to heal myself, so that I could then teach others how to heal themselves, i.e. my school. And the gem that's come out of this is not only my knowledge and my wisdom and all of that to impart onto other people ascending, but that Game Boy that I held in my hand is the gem, the real prize, because it's going to revolutionize the gaming industry. It's everything that embodies my school. It's going to revolutionize the way people make videos, play video games, experience space navigation, um, death, the afterlife. It's going to allow people to become the most creative they will ever have the opportunity to be in the privacy of their own home, just by using my chair that I've invented. But in order for me to um, develop my chair, I want the kids from the school involved. Um, they're going to be helping me build the prototype. They're going to be a part of the whole process, which is why it was a Game Boy. It was to do with, gaming and entertainment, and having the world in the palm of your hand. But the fact it was a Game Boy is to do with for the children, because of the children, because the money that I make from selling it, the money that I get from it is going to be all poured back into the kids. So by me designing this, my MENA system, my modulated entertainment network archetype, name might change, but that's the design. That's what I'm going to put on the patent. Um, it's going to revolutionise gaming and entertainment and space flight and all of that. Social media is going to revolutionise all of that to the point where everything else is going to go extinct. Which is another, the blackheads. It's removing things from the past that are no longer necessary. So things like X and Instagram and YouTube and that will no longer be necessary because of everything that's going to be in this Game Boy. And it was in pristine condition, and I knew it was going to be worth a lot of money, like a lot of money. And me holding it in my hand and giving it to Gabriel and everything like that is keeping it safe and not sharing everything about it with the world. And because I know how much this is going to be worth. People like Meta and that are going to hate me, because nobody's going to deal with any of this social media stuff anymore. And I know people's like, how is that coming from a gaming chair? But you don't know what it is I've designed. I started telling Gabriel, but he didn't understand it. But that's fine. Um, so, yeah. So the dream, because then I had the shower. And to dream of showers is, going through the purification cleansing process. If you dream of having a bath, it's sitting in the cleansing process. Still being in the purification process, you're still sitting in the bubble of, like going through a car wash, how the car stops halfway and it all comes through and washes you clean, and then you move along. It's like that. That's what a bath is like. You're still in the cleansing process, but when you're having a shower, it's been washed away. And then looking in the mirror is having to being forced to look at myself, um, having to let go of guilt, like with my baby. Obviously, the baby that he made me give up was a boy. I always thought it was a girl, but obviously it was a boy. And like, if I was going to stay with him any longer, I wouldn't have been able to have my little girl. And this little girl and who her baby daddy is really, really important, because if you look at the Bible and ancient prophecies and stuff like that, she's going to work alongside the new Messiah. And because he's here to rule a new kind of government, I believe that, and because the way that he rules his government is going to be such that he takes humanity into like a new frontier. That's what God talks about, and I believe it's talking about space flight. And so my gaming chair, which is going to be involving my space program and my space navigation system and blah blah blah. And because we're going to be working with terminally ill people and helping people who how do I put it? Helping people meet meet God in a way where they see the truth of creation using my gaming chair, combined with my space program. Um, she's going to be the next generation. She's going to be the one that takes people to the, if I'm like the birth of a new dawn, she's going to be a part of what's beyond the horizon. Because, yeah, so she's really important, and who I have her with is equally as important. And I had husbands who were toxic and evil and nasty and selfish and greedy, and none of them defended me. None of them defended my honour. None of them believed me when other people talked in their ear, which is why he had that one, that the pus in his ear. He believed the lies, and it turned him toxic, it turned him psychopathic, it turned him evil. And so my son was saying, basically, that the man that is coming, the one that I end up marrying, he's not like the others. So don't think he's going to be like the others, because he's nothing like the others. He's he's part of the rose that grows out of the poop. Because say how I say, out of poop grows roses. It's all it's all that, and that's what he was saying. The next man that's coming, the one that I end up marrying, he's not like the others. And so don't think he's going to be like the others, because he's not. The fact that he had this ring made for me, this beautiful with these synthetic stones and all of that, means that he understands everything I've been through. He gets the importance of what it is I've been through. He understands the importance of who I am and what's coming in the future, and he wants to help me build that future. He's offering, he's going to offer to help be a part of what it is I'm creating, because he gets it. And his loyalty and dedication and faithfulness to me is such that he's been planning things, or he will plan things behind the scenes that I don't know about, in order to reassure me that he's in this with me for life, and that nobody will talk in his ear. Nobody will be toxic to him. If people say things, he's not going to believe them. He will defend me, because he knows who I am. He's seen my process. He knows my story. He knows everything I've been through, and he knows that whatever it is that those people have been saying, like the trash talk, the gang stalking and all that sort of thing, he knows that they're not telling the truth. He knows people are always going to try and make sure that we're kept apart, but he's not going to fall for it. He's not like the others, where, because it happened with my first husband too, where if people talk in their ear, he's not going to listen to it, because he knows the truth. He knows who I really am. He sees the rose under the thorns being everybody else. He's not going to be one of these men who will be swayed by the temptations of other women. He's not going to be one of these men who flirts with other women, who gives the impression that he's even interested in other women. He's not one of these men who's going to play games. He's going to be very serious about his intentions with me, and when he makes himself known, it will be undeniable, his loyalty. Because that's what I say, that's all I want. I just want a man to be loyal and faithful. And loyal is also to do with giving yourself only to one person, but also if anyone talks crap in your ear, you don't fall for it. Because, like, you don't know my partner. You don't know my woman like I do. I know my woman. And that's what that whole thing with the ring represents. The fact that the ring was too big at first was is to do with the men that had the potential to be my future husband, them just not fitting. We didn't fit together, it didn't sit right because they weren't meant to be. But when I was able to take all the other rings off, when I was able to take off um, the potentials from the past and my husband's and everything they'd put me through, when I was able to just take that all off my finger and fit his ring on it, it fit perfectly. And then because I could see the wedding ring starting to appear on my finger and where it was going to sit next to my engagement ring, it means that this man, when he comes along, I'm going to know he's the one for me. Right, he's definitely the one. And then he's going to be my baby daddy. So all of this to say, I had to go through all of that in order to be able to meet the man who was going to give me my daughter, because her, along with my sons, are going to be a part of something really big. But in order to do that, I had to make a name for myself as an occult physicist to expose the dark underbelly of power and corruption and, in government and in business and in social media and all of that. And in my life, I had to be able to deal with it and expose it all, to remove the darkness, because we're not going to be able to save children in the future while these people are still in power or still have power over me or still in my head that I haven't healed from. So the second dream was saying you've healed from it now, and now comes the next part. So I'm guessing I'm about to be told I've got justice and that all the people that did this to me are going to be held accountable, and I'm going to get my money and go. And then I can build my school and get the investment that I need to... My dating app might be enough to build my gaming chair. When I sell the rights to my dating app Spellbound, because that's going to be worth a few billion if I sell it to Tinder, that might be enough to build my gaming chair, which I'm pretty sure my youngest might want to be a part of because he loves engineering. When I'm able to sit down with him and actually show him what I've created, he'll get it. I just need a pen and pencil and paper. It's not the sort of thing you can describe by using words. I have to put it on paper, and then he'll get it. And then I think he'll want to be a part of it because he loves engineering. Anything to do with engineering, like his koro. So, yeah. So that's what the dreams meant, and now you know. So basically I've been told I'm healed. I'm purified, I'm healed, I'm cleansed. Everything, my exes and the men from my past and all that, they were all lessons. And I had to choose between flying or drowning. Amber, the dream I had with Amber in the water, I had to choose between staying loyal to men who were toxic and dangerous and sleazy and evil out of loyalty because of, how much marriage means to me, or having my daughter. And I chose my daughter. I broke away, the night when he put the cocaine in my pizza and everything. Um, I knew that I was about to go through hell. When I messaged him, when I locked the doors, when I rang the police, all that, I knew when he said, when he stormed out of the house, when I called the police and he said, "You're going to pay for this, you're going to effing pay for this," I knew he was about to put me through hell. I knew that I was going to go through the ride of my life, through a really dark time, because then he got me locked up, which is in the dream when I was in the garden in the beds. I knew it, but I just played the game, and I even told them at the hospital, I'm going to play the game, and then when I get out of here, you all better run, which was the spiders scattering. Yeah, so I've healed from it, and now I'm taking all my lessons that I learnt and all the work I had to do on myself in order to purify myself. I keep touching my face because I'm checking to make sure there's there's no pimples and blackheads. It's really weird. It was so gross. And now I'm um, releasing it all in these videos and that to show people how to do it themselves. Because I've gone first and now other people will follow, but I now know I'm no longer going to accept anybody in my life who doesn't have my level of loyalty and integrity and honour and morals and ethics. And if they're not as equally committed to me as I am to them, I don't want them in my life. If they're not people that are proud to know me, I don't want them in my life. I will no longer be taking on other people's baggage. I will no longer be carrying the burdens of other people, nor will I be taking on their toxic traits and behaviours and letting them take their anger and their darkness and their out on me because they've chosen not to do the work on themselves. Yeah, I've washed myself of it. So that's what the two dreams meant. Pretty interesting, eh? When you look at dreams for what they really are, I love interpreting dreams. When I had my radio show, my radio station, my internet radio station. I want to do. Um, I want to have a slot where people can ring in or write in, email, whatever, tell me their dreams, and then I can interpret them live on air and tell them what their dreams mean. So I want to have like the paranormal hour, like my radio show that I had in Chicago, but I'll call it the occult hour because it's all to do with the supernatural and the occult. Anything you've experienced um, to do with the paranormal and all of that, like you can ring up and I'll be able to tell you what it all means and oh, I've got a ghost doing this and I'll be able to show you, and then also I'll have the products you can buy. And then I want to do obviously with my Oracle of Delphine, that is giving advice and that to empaths. People can ring up like for empathic healing and ascension healing. They can contact me and I can talk them through what they're going through and explain about, um, yeah, like my Oracle of Delphine stuff. And then I want to do my dream interpretation. I also want to do one where people can send in their coffee cup, teacup palms, and I read them like on on air. So yeah, so that's what the dream meant. And I feel so sick. I'm just thinking my stomach's starting to get hungry, but I can't even bring myself to eat because I just blah blah all the stuff that's been spewed out onto me that I had to take. Ugh. So anyway, but none of it stopped me. None of it stopped me. Whatever it was they threw at me, all that dark, toxic, vomity, pussy, ugh, it didn't stick. So onward and upward. So I don't know who baby daddy is, but apparently, according to my son, he's loyal and dedicated and only has eyes for me. And that's what I want. I I don't like weakness in people. I don't like that kind of thing as a weakness. You don't say you love someone and then look at other women or flirt with other women or engage with other women or put me aside until you play the field and you think, well, I'll just be with these other women and then when I'm ready to settle down, I'll be with her. No. I just want someone who's like, that's the woman I want. I'm going to be with her. I don't want anyone else. I'm going to show her I don't want anyone else. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life just being loyal and dedicated to her because I know how important she is to the future of children and I want to be a part of that. And I wouldn't dream of entertaining the thought of being with other women because who can be better than her? And I don't mean that in an egotistical way, but I'm the daughter of God and I have supernatural powers and I have a mind that creates multi-billion pound ideas for the future. And if that's not good enough for any man, then go and be with the trash. Like, I'm the treasure, not the trash. And I don't mean that in an egotistical way, but I'm the daughter of God. And when you mess with the daughter of God, you're saying to God, no, she's not good enough. And it's usually because I'm not a whore. Because I'm pure, um, I don't want to sleep with other men to entertain my man so that he can get his rocks off and all that sort of thing. I don't want to entertain fetishes and all of that to please my man. You know, like my body is for one man and one man only. And any man that had the potential to be my future husband, that had the potential to be my blue dragon, it's a totem thing. Um, I was dedicated and loyal and giving myself only to them, but they didn't pay me the same favour. So now, most of them that came into my life that had the potential were gone after a couple of weeks, because as soon as I saw who they really were, um, they were no longer an option. They no longer had the potential to be someone I could trust to protect everything that I was creating. You know, when a husband and wife have a baby, he's supposed to protect her and the baby in the belly and the home and the kids, and you know, it's his role to be the shield. And none of the men that had the potential to be the man of my future were shielding me. They were the attack, part of the attack, not the defence. So yeah, if he doesn't shield me and our unborn child, if he doesn't shield me and everything that I'm building, if he doesn't, if it's not about, if I as his wife or the woman he loves doesn't come first in his life next to his job, and um, like his wife and our family, if we're not the most important thing in his life next to how he makes money and that, then I don't want to know it. Like, he's not for me, because I'm that way. And if he's not on my level, I don't want to know him. I don't look at other men when I'm in love. I don't flirt with other men when I'm in love. I give myself 100% to the person I'm in love with, and yet I was constantly accused of cheating. These insecure men that when you talk to the man who's serving you in the shop, he automatically thinks you're cheating and then creates this big massive drama because he's unhealed and he doesn't trust love. So then he assumes that you're going to leave and accuses you of all the things that he fears, all the things he's guilty of, that sort of thing. I'm not that the blackheads in the dream. I'm not dealing with that anymore. I know who I am now. I've stepped into my power. I know my worth. I'm cleansed and purified. I've had to admit things about myself that were toxic, guilt that I carried, shame that I had, that for things that I did in the past, these things that I did when I was a teenager that I'm so embarrassed and ashamed of. You know, these things that I did before, even like in relationships and my marriages and that I'm embarrassed of, that I'm ashamed of, that I carry guilt. You know, any guilt that I've harboured, like with, I carried a lot of guilt with not being able to say goodbye to Amber in person, the loss of my familiar Ghibli. I have a lot of guilt with him because he should have had a better life than the one that he had for the role that he played in my life as my familiar. So I carried a lot of guilt with that. And so while I've been here in my little protective bubble, healing from everything I was put through, I've had to admit things about myself that I didn't want to have to admit weren't healthy, and I had to let go of the things that I did in the past where I carried guilt that I have to now let go of, because what's done is done, and that was the pimple bursting, and now I share all of that with you. And as a result, it's clearing the path for me to meet literally the man of my dreams, who's going to be everything I'm looking for. And the only way I was going to meet him and have my baby with him, have my daughter with him, was by letting go of all the other stuff and making sure that all the people in power who have the power to try and stop me from saving children were removed out of the way first. And that's what the dream meant. So I'm going to go now. I shall speak to you later. Ka kite anō.